Hi, welcome to Addiction Recovery Place podcast, the podcast champion addiction treatment professionals around the world. I'm your host, Chris Langley, and I'm very pleased to introduce today's guest, Corey Marcus, the Executive Director of Wasatch Recovery in Sandy, Utah. Welcome to the Addiction Recovery Place podcast, Corey. It's so good to have you join us today.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to do it.
No, really excited to hear about the awesome service that you got in your state. So just going to kick things off. So can you tell us about yourself and your journey to becoming the executive director of your recovery service?
Yeah, kind of an interesting one. I actually went to school and graduated in business finance and had no intentions on working in the treatment world. And actually from, some of my kind of self kind of stuff and getting into therapy and doing some things, I thought, hey, I want to get into this. And I did. I went back to school and got into it and became a counselor, an addiction counselor. And again, didn't think that would go anywhere. I was kind of living this one track of being a counselor in the evening and having another professional life. And with my business background and love for addiction and treatment, it just kept putting me in different situations. And I quickly found out that, a lot of people in the addiction world didn't have a lot of business background. So it gave me opportunities and I just kind of started moving down the path, and I was kind of walking this line of a counselor and a business person, and just helped open a few places. And it was kind of wild. And then all of a sudden I was, being asked to help, kind of run a couple of places and open places. I moved to Florida for a while and then landed here. So I've been here now about 10 years.
Goodness me. So what year was it that you went back to school?
So it was 2006, I want to say, about 2006. Yeah.
Goodness me.
Yeah.
So 18 years
Yeah, it's
ago.
been a minute. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. So it was obviously meant to be.
Yeah, you can say that.
That's amazing to hear. That's awesome. So obviously you're working as the executive director. Can you tell us about some of the services that you offer your clients and how your program works, please?
Yeah, so we're in Salt Lake City, Utah. Well, Sandy, Utah. It's kind of a little suburb of Salt Lake City, Utah. And we have, all of the continuum of care. So we start with residential, and we have two beautiful homes that are just right up against the mountains, like literally 10 minutes from some of the best ski resorts in the world. And we have capacity for 32 people. And it's male and female. We don't really kind of, have a male house or a female house. We have them, kind of everyone in the same homes. And then we have an outpatient that has a day treatment. And then we also have an intensive outpatient. And we have sober living, and we're pretty unique because we built our sober living and our outpatient building from the ground up. So we all sat down and said, if we were able to create the best place that would work for everybody, let's do it. And we did it. And so it's all kind of like on the same campus. So we have a building, which is our outpatient building, which has group rooms and individual rooms and like a rec area and everything. And then in the same parking lot, just behind it, has some townhomes, and we have capacity for 52 people that can live there. And so they can, live in the townhome and literally walk across the parking lot and come to treatment. And it's pretty neat. Yeah. And it's near, our outpatient is more in the town area, like the downtown area. So it's near like, public transportation and jobs and different things. But our residential is about 15 minutes from there, and it's more kind of up in the mountain area. So yeah, it's pretty neat though. It's pretty cool.
That sounds an amazing environment to be working in.
Yeah, it's good. I'm lucky to have a really cool team and some people that, really wanted to do it that way. We started obviously with just a little place, an outpatient place, and then just kept saying, we got to make this our own.
Yeah, you mentioned about your team members. Can you tell us about some of your team? I've looked on your website. You've got some amazing
we have
people
a
with you.
really cool place here at Wasatch. It started actually with two brothers that had really nothing to do with treatment. They were people that were in real estate and were kind of looking for something else to do. And during the housing crash, they were like, we gotta find something else to do. This just might not sustain forever. and they had a lot of real estate experience, but not a lot of treatment experience, and really just had a heart for kind of wanting to do this. And so they kind of started it and just started kind of, cherry picking different people. And I met them right when they started doing that. But I was actually just getting ready to move to Florida to actually open a treatment center. And so they got it kind of going, got it off the ground. And then I moved. I was out in Florida for a while and came back and then came here to be their director. And then I started kind of cherry picking people that I used to work with at different treatment centers. And we've kind of just created this place where people want to work, and we're all so different, which was crazy. Like, I don't really want I don't want the same therapists that are doing the same things, So we have people that specialize in EMDR, people that specialize in DBT and CBT and everyone, and some people that really are gung ho with 12 steps, some people that are really gung ho with rational recovery. And we don't just say, hey, this is the box you need to be in. Like, we kind of let everyone do their thing. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Sounds a really neat place to work, that you've got so much scope and wide range of services and therapies that you're offering your clients as well. It's not just 12-step or
it's everything. It's whatever fits for the
That's
person, I mean, we obviously have a curriculum that we kind of will follow with our groups and things, but what we always tell our clients is, hey, you're not just going to do rational recovery. You're not just going to do 12 steps. You're going to be exposed to a lot of stuff. But our main thing that we really kind of tell everyone is, when you come here, you're going to process and work on the why. And that's different for everybody. I mean, someone might check into treatment and say, I just need to stop drinking. Well, okay. But I always say anyone can stop, using their drug. It's staying stopped. And the reason that you're using that or pursuing that is because of some trauma or some pain or whatever else is going on, some underlying stuff. And that's what we're treating here.
Yeah, most definitely. It sounds incredible. It really does. You mentioned your sober living program, which just sounded very, very impressive. So can you tell us how this works and what's the process for people to become a resident?
So we actually, our most people start in our residential. You don't have to. I mean, people can come to our sober living that hasn't even been to our programs. But most people will start with our residential, and they're there 30 to 60 days, give or take, kind of wherever they need to be. And then at the end of that, when they're stepping down, most people have, coming into treatment have burned down their lives, and they have, and if they haven't, they might not have even the place they're going back to might not be a good environment anyway. And so we tell them right from day one, hey, there is this option for sober living when you're done. And our culture here has kind of been built where they just kind of know that's the next step. And like, I even just had somebody that graduated on Monday. He has a great family. He's a father. He has a wonderful job. But just kind of the culture and being in treatment, he decided to do a month of sober living. And honestly, he has a good home life, and he has, responsibilities and some things that he could, get back to, but he needs that bridge. And so from day one, we're talking about it. Now, a lot of people, they don't have the funds for that. And a lot of our people coming into our treatment center are helping, or, their payments are through insurance. And commercial insurance doesn't pay for living. It doesn't pay for sober living. So it's something that needs to come out of pocket. And we run it as a separate kind of entity. It's really like a rental property. And so they have to pay for it. And a lot of them can't, And so we actually have a foundation that we've started that can help. They can apply for a scholarship. There's several others here in Utah that have started scholarship foundations just for sober living. And so we've kind of linked up with them. There is, times where families will help pay. There's, religious, different opportunities where their religion will help pay. And we have a stated fee that say, hey, this is what it is. And I'll be honest, I think there's probably, maybe 20% that pay that fee. We have large discounts for the scholarships and different things. And And yeah, we want them to come into sober living, and yeah, it's a business, but our main goal there is to break even because we're providing them a place to stay. They're still in treatment. They're still getting help, and it's not, we didn't really go into it as this huge money maker. We had the luxury of the real estate backing of the knowledge. So when we built those, we were able to do that in a way where, we're not upside down in that. So it's been a blessing. Yeah.
I can imagine your success rates are pretty pretty high. I mean, the services you're providing and the sober living as well and the supports
Yeah.
after
Our
treatment.
goal,
It's
we
just
always tell
phenomenal.
people we're trying to get you engaged in treatment for a year. Now that doesn't mean you're in residential for 365 days, What we're trying to do is we're trying to get you from the day that you start and a year later you're still engaged with something. And that might just mean you're still in sober living after a year. But if we can get somebody, engaged for a year, I mean, it's almost like unexplainable how we can do it. I mean, 3 to 6 months, that's a hard time for somebody. But if we can get them engaged with treatment for a year, it's not like a guarantee, but they're doing well. They're doing well.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, congratulations to you on that. That's very, very impressive. You mentioned also, Corey, working with families, and I'm a true believer in offering
Absolutely.
support to those whose family members are going through addiction. So, what does your work with families involve and offer? What
Well, we're a true believer that addiction is not just affecting the person. I mean, we all know that, and everyone can say that, but it really is a family issue, you know. And even if the family issue is just, maybe they only have one person living, that's still affecting that person, even if they're not living near them or out of state. It's a family issue. And so, yeah, so we're a firm believer in that, and we do several different things. We have a family night that we do every Tuesday night. And it's not like a group, but it's more set up like a education or like a classroom style. And we encourage any family and friends of the client that's in treatment to come. And each one of our therapists takes a night. So it's kind of like I think we're up to like a 16-week now rotation where we have different counselors and everyone kind of doing it. But everyone takes a night and you get to just teach what you want. And sometimes it's communication. Sometimes it's, just boundaries or whatever it is. But our underlying thing that we're always trying to teach to families is the knowledge of unconditional love. Not letting somebody off the hook and just saying, okie doke, it's okay you did this, but being able to love somebody even though they're making horrible choices. And if we can start there, then we can jump into other things. I mean, we offer individual therapy, we offer couples counseling. I've been at several different treatment centers, and being here is cool because you're always seeing a husband or a wife or kids, walking through here because they're having a meeting with the person that's in treatment. And we're trying not to make it scary for her. A lot of people think, oh, my husband's in treatment, and if I come in there, you're just going to rail on me and I'm going to get in trouble. And we don't do that. We bring them into the whole system and love them like they need to be loved.
it must be such a weight
Yeah.
off family members' shoulders when they come to your treatment and they realize the help that you're providing them as well.
They walk in the door and they're terrified, right? Because they're scared. But I mean, we're, as soon as they walk in the door, we're grabbing them and hugging them and, hey, you're going to be okay. This is going to be okay. And we have a saying here that, if you're here for longer than 15 minutes, you're going to hear it, is that you're part of the Wasatch family. And when someone comes into treatment, you're part of the Wasatch family. Like, we just are this kind of giant, huge family that, I mean, sometimes we're maybe even kind of like a dysfunctional family because we're pretty crazy too, but that's part of it, right? We're all this is a happy family.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. Wow. That's it's lovely to hear. It really is. So if someone wants to come to your treatment center, so what's the referral process for people wanting to
So we
come to
have,
Wasatch?
we actually have, believe it or not, of all the people in treatment. I mean, like I said, we have 32 beds. We have, I'd say, I think about 80 or so clients between our day treatment and outpatient and our intensive outpatient right now. With all that going on, we actually have two people that run all of our admissions, and they're incredible. One's name's Ryan Decker, and the other one is Christian Smith, and they take all the calls, every call. I mean, we have our phone number, and the phone number that's on our website, and the phone number that's everywhere, and every single call that rings, one of those guys take it. And they answer it, whether it's the middle of the night or a Saturday or a holiday or whatever, and they instantly just start, building rapport with, because it's someone calling because it's an emergency, and it's not always the client, right? It's a family member or a boss or a son or whatever, and they instantly are just, building rapport. And sometimes that rapport might take 6 months for that person to get into treatment. Sometimes that person might come in a week, but everything goes through these two people. And they're amazing, both in recovery, so they get it. And actually, Ryan is a graduate of our program about 9-10 years ago. And so not only is he gets it, but he's lived the Wasatch way. And so it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's a pretty neat thing.
Wow. So you've got
24
someone
hours a
called
day.
24/7
Yep,
to take
24 hours
calls.
a day.
So, yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I'm just going to move on a little bit to ask, because I've heard of many incidents on this podcast of clients testing positive when they first entered treatment for fentanyl, and they didn't think they were using fentanyl. I think we spoke about this when we first met. But has this been a problem for some of your clients who are entering the program, who think they may be using one drug and then realize they've put their lives at such an even bigger risk of having fentanyl within their...
Absolutely.
within
I mean,
their
it's
drugs?
become such a problem that we've added it to our drug testing separately. So when people come into treatment, we always have to do an initial drug test to see, kind of what they've been using and see what's there. Even if they're coming from detox, we just need, that's part of our first protocol to kind of see what's going on. And in the beginning, I'd say probably been about 2 years now or so, but we didn't initially test for fentanyl. We could, but it wasn't on our first tests, And so we added that because, not only because we started hearing, because people were using fentanyl, but that it was being mixed with other things. And me being just kind of curious, I wanted to see how many people were really testing positive that didn't know, and I was blown away. I mean, it was rare. It's rare right now that someone comes in and tests, they report, this just happened 2 weeks ago. A person came in, he reports that he needed treatment. He's only using methamphetamines, denies, any other drugs, smoked a little bit of marijuana here and there, but main thing was methamphetamines. Had been clean for a few months and had relapsed. And so comes in and we drug tested, and he actually reported, hey, that meth out there is just not like what it was. And in my head, I'm thinking, I bet there was fentanyl in there. And I even told him that, and I said, well, we'll see what your UA comes back as. And yeah, they came back. There was fentanyl in there. And I've seen that, like I said, most people that come in now, even in the marijuana, I mean, people are coming positive for fentanyl with smoking cannabis. It's amazing. Yeah.
That's just an incredible thing to hear. And I've spoken to many people on this podcast, and you're certainly not the first person to mention this. It's something I'm personally interested in kind of tracking, because it just seems ridiculous. It just, that people are just using what they think is say cocaine or something, and then they've really put their lives at risk.
Well, it also has caused problems for detox because, people, we have these different protocols for different, substances that can help, and whether they're using heroin or whatever else. And this fentanyl seems to, and even the fentanyl being mixed with other stuff, but it seems to have a longer lasting effect. And so, they might come in to us, and with opioids, we can, our doctor is pretty good. She's run a detox, and so she can help get some people step down, pretty good. But we're having to send people to the hospital because even after, a few days of detoxing here with the assistance of a doctor, they need something else. And it's amazing because it's not just, you really can't manage the detox anymore. Like it has to be in the hospital, and it's scary, I mean, they're adding all kinds of stuff that who knows what's going on now, but it's not just dangerous for them while they're using, but even coming off of it, and they don't even know. So they're not saying, hey, I was using fentanyl. Like you wouldn't know unless you were testing for it.
Hmm. I mean, this is
Yeah.
changing the whole
Yeah.
landscape, isn't it, of a drug addiction treatment. It's just the risk compared to,
Yeah.
say, even 10, 20 years ago, it's just so much bigger.
For a long time, heroin just overtook Utah. I mean, we went through the opioid thing just like everyone else, and pills and everything else, and then heroin just exploded out here. It was cheaper version, right? Everyone was using it, and that was, people were overdosing, people were passing away. It was scary, but now this sounds bad, but I like that way better than I like the fentanyl. Like we knew what to do. We were doing well with that. It was easier managed. And the odd thing about this is, you know, with people that were using heroin, it was almost, not that this is right, but it was kind of like people were taught how to use heroin by people that had been using heroin for a while, And it was this weird kind of passed down type thing where they even had people helping watch people. I mean, it was not that it was right, but there was kind of this hierarchy of how it was working. You kind of had like the grandfather heroin addicts that were watching out for the younger guys. With fentanyl, that's not working. They are just dying so fast that no one's watching out for anybody. I mean, even the Narcan isn't working as good because it's so much stronger. It's a weird world right now. Yeah.
Most definitely. So how is Utah dealing with the fentanyl crisis?
Absolutely. Oddly enough, today, it's kind of funny is, I mean, our very first, so our governor, we have a good governor. He's, really cares about treatment. He's done a lot for mental health. He's done a lot of things. He actually just organized a fentanyl strike force, and their first meeting's actually today of all time, which is kind of crazy. And what they're trying to do really is, one, just gathering a whole bunch of people in the community, like providers, law enforcement, people in recovery, and getting them in the same room and saying, what do we got to do? And I mean, already, there's been things done where, I mean, there's plenty of places to get Narcan. I mean, you can get Narcan, anywhere, which has been great because the prescription has gone away. I mean, you can go in and, just buy it now. You can, in Salt Lake, they actually have different places. There's a place, a nonprofit that's been started by a doctor that she had a brother that passed away. And she started a foundation that just builds kits and gives them out for free. She gives them, I mean, and we're talking like not just a few. It's like, this is a huge thing. And not just to like providers, but they actually go out on the streets and pass them out and get it in the hands of people that are using. And it's good. But I think we've got a long fight though. I mean, this isn't something that's gonna go away. And I mean, it's so cheap. I mean, people are getting these pills that are less than $1. And I mean, something I remember when heroin, it was like $10 for and I thought that was cheap. And people are, I'm like, what? People are only getting these for $10. This is crazy. And now they can get these pills for literally cents. And to me, as someone that understands business, I don't know how they're making money on it, because it just doesn't make sense. Like, to me, it's this thing where it's just been put out it's a bad thing, because there's no way they're making that much money on these pills when they're charging cents. Just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make.
Yeah. So just a couple of cents
Yeah, I mean,
for a pill, or 50. I mean, that's
we hear, because people come into treatment, so you get to hear all the crazy stuff that's going on out there, And yeah, I mean, it was $1. Now it's down into the cents. I mean, if you buy, and they're buying thousands of that, and so yeah, it's an interesting time to be doing this.
It is. It is. Well, thankfully, there's yours and other agencies around the country that are dealing with this. And by the sounds of it, your governor isn't running away from this issue either, which is highly commendable.
He's done well. We have a good treatment world out here in Utah too. I mean, there's a lot of treatment centers, but and we technically we're in competition because we're all in the same space, but we all get along pretty well and we work together. And we know, like, if I know that something that we're not doing well with, that someone might need something, like for example, someone with a severe eating disorder, that's not something that our place specializes in, and it's not fair to keep it quiet here if they need that help. And I know 3 places I can call and say, hey, I've been treating this person, we need them to do this. And I'm not like fearful of losing a client, like we're all in the same team of helping. And Utah is a unique place in that, like, it is we have these monthly meetings where we all get together. We're all friends. We're all pretty close. I mean, yeah, I mean, just as now my phone just popped up in a little corner, someone calling from another treatment center that's one of my friends that, when I lived in Florida, that wasn't the case. You didn't work with anyone else. It was crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You just be you and you focus on you.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Would you say that you've seen a shift in the community attitude towards drug use and treatment, especially given the enormous help that services like you
Yeah.
are offering?
I worked in this for a little while. And I live out in Utah, and we're in a pretty conservative state, pretty religious state. And so, there's kind of been a stigma, and I'd say there still is, but it's getting better. But it's kind of that, okay, addiction doesn't affect me. It's the neighbor down the road, or, it's something we see on TV, or it's somebody I knew, whatever. But that's not the case anymore. I mean, it if it isn't affected you directly, whether yourself or a family member or a coworker, then you're lying, And so I think that has helped kind of help that, I mean, it doesn't discriminate, I mean, it doesn't, I mean, it's been in my family, it's been in my friends' families. I mean, and so I think that has helped, right? Because a lot of these where people are used to be able to be like, oh, that doesn't happen to me. It does. It happens whether you're religious, whether you're successful, or whether you're homeless. Like it happens. And it doesn't mean that you are a horrible person. It means that you need some help.
That's right.
And so I do think it's getting better. I mean, I've seen it get better. And, I went to a thing the other day, big foundation kind of, one of those fundraiser big dinners that you go to, and everyone doesn't really want to be there, but you have to go, right? And you know how those go.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
this
definitely.
guy, it was really neat. He got up there and he was talking about how he started a sober living facility years and years ago. This was a very long time ago. And he was talking about how when he started it, the neighbors and all these people were really upset, which understandably, it was kind of in the middle of the neighborhood. And there was, I mean, it was, you can argue both and whatever about it. But he ended up closing it, moving on. Years later, he actually got contacted by one of those neighbors that apologized for what was going on because he had gone through a horrible addiction with his son. Son was now clean and doing well, and but he basically said, hey, I'm sorry. I was kind of living in fear of, I didn't want that in my backyard, not knowing that it was in my home. And I thought that was a good example of, sometimes we do things because it's scary, right? We don't, we're acting out of emotion, but addiction and mental health, like it's here, it's affecting all of us. And it's something that we all just need to deal with. And unfortunately, like with fentanyl and things, plug it away. But
No, no, it's nice to hear that, attitudes are changing towards the right direction. That's it's you're not quite there yet, but
it's
at least
better.
things are
It's
moving.
better. It's
That's
got
good
a
to hear.
while, but it's better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's better. It's better. Um, you also mentioned to me when we first met that about the practice of body brokering, which I've spoken about on a podcast with one other person who was in California. Um, and you told me that you've been
Yeah.
a first hand witness of
Fortunately, I
this
have.
practice
Yeah.
when you previously worked somewhere else. Yeah. So for people listening, would you be able to tell us about your experience? Obviously, not saying about names or anything, but you know what you experienced when you saw this practice and how widespread is it? Because it just sounded just. I've never heard of this before. It was shocking.
I briefly told you. So I worked for a place here in Utah, and we moved out to, we opened a facility in Portland. And this was 2000, maybe 12, 10, around there, somewhere around there. And so I moved out there and we opened this great facility, kind of built it from the ground up, doing, really, really good things out there. And one, it was different because, like I said, here in Utah, we're all pretty close, and it was very kind of tight, close knit. And I was trying to do that out there, and people were just like, "Who is this crazy guy that wants to like be friends with us?" So I'm like, "Well, this is how we do this." And I heard rumors because I wasn't really in that community. I wasn't from there. I was integrated into. But I had heard rumors of that happening, of people, being paid to go to treatment, or people finding people with good insurance and basically selling them, right? And they're like, "Hey, I'll give you $20 for this guy." And I'm like, almost kind of naive, thinking, yeah, that doesn't happen, like it probably happened a couple times, but whatever. And until I actually had it happen to me, I had a client that came in, he had checked into treatment, and he came to me literally like with no like name or anything. He just came and said, "So when do I get paid?" And I was like, me, like, I was kind of like, I thought he was joking with me, like, whatever. And as we kind of dug into it, no, like he thought he was being paid to be here. And what had happened is actually a misunderstanding. He was being paid to go to treatment. He ended up going to us instead of this other place. While he was in detox, he had, been sent somewhere else. And yeah, so I got to know this kid really well, and he kind of just laid it out for me, and he was from New York. He had went down to treatment in Florida, and kind of got whole wrapped up in that whole game, and was making a living out of it. And and it was unfortunate because, he had kind of learned, one, he had learned to make money at it. And also it was prolonged. Like he wasn't getting clean, he wasn't getting the help he needed. And unfortunately that kid actually ended up passing away. I mean, I moved back to Utah, and, he kind of would go in and out of sobriety, and ended up overdosing and passing away. But it was wild, I mean, it was people, like I said, go into, paying for people, like literally in detoxes. They would go into detox as a patient, and then, find people that were there and say, "Hey, I'm going to X treatment center, and if you come with me, it's going to be fun, and you'll get $200." And then, it just kind of trickled down from there. And I had moved back. I'd been in Utah when all this kind of blew up, and now there's movies of it, and there's, all these documentaries happening. And unfortunately, it wasn't just there. It happened in all other states. It happens here in Utah still. I mean, our admissions person I was just telling about, I mean, he told me how he got a call just a few months ago about somebody that needed treatment. It was a person trying to find, which isn't rare, right? I mean, a lot of times someone else is facilitating someone to get to treatment, but this person wasn't like a family, a friend. And so he kind of backed off, and the guy got mad at her and said, "Well, I've been working on this, and who's going to pay me for all this?" Look, we don't pay for referrals errors, and to me, that's crazy that somebody is so blatantly, like no shame, like upset with the person on the phone that you wasted my time, which means that people are just paying for it, right? And I mean, we've passed laws here in Utah against body brokery. I mean, you can't, if there's anything, any monetary means that's tied back to a client, then that's body brokering. So even if it's, I mean, obviously exchange for money, but even if it's gifts or even if it's whatever, I mean, there's plenty of things to fall under it. And I know that it has curbed it, but unfortunately, I know it's still out there.
So Utah actually did bring in a state law about trying to address this. That's awesome to hear, because it's human trafficking
What it
as
falls
well.
under
I
is the
mean,
human
there's
trafficking
there's
laws.
not,
Is yeah, yeah,
yeah.
and it's vulnerable people. It's people and sometimes they don't even know. I mean, that's what's crazy is they're some people are actually trying to get help, but because they have X insurance, they're kind of being bid to different places. Like, hey, I've got this great insurance plan. Who will give you the most for it? That's BS because that is just so wrong. And like I said, the client doesn't even know. That just being as a commodity. It doesn't. Yeah, it's awful.
That's just, it must be a real shock for clients when they actually, or if they ever do
Yeah,
realize what's
and
happened as well. That must be so
it's to the point
demoralizing.
with us where if there's not a tie of like a close tie, like a family member, a coworker, a friend, or something like that, if it's just some random person that's trying to say, hey, this person needs treatment, we shy away from it. We just say, hey, apply here. If we can feel that something's not right there, we instantly just give them another referral and say, hey, call someone else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Excellent. Wow. Thank you for explaining that to us. That's it's just sad. It's just, it's just really tragic that someone who's trying to get into treatment then has to deal with that as well, that risk as well. It's just no. Well, thank you very much for that, Corey. You mentioned the word stigma earlier, which is sadly a word that comes up in all my podcasts and is now a regular question I ask here. But why do you think in this day and age that stigma can play such a big role in people not looking to get help for their addiction?
Well, again, I think it's because of this negative thing that addiction means you're bad. And addiction
Yeah.
has, I mean, even the word, like, I mean, people even gone away from, which I think's good at sometimes and bad at sometimes, but we've gone away from saying the word addiction, like, because it's instantly this negative thing. And, and yeah, there's a lot of hurt in addiction. There's a lot of pain in addiction. There's bad things that happen in addiction, but that is not the person, and that's what we try to do here is separate that, like you do horrible things when you're addicted to a substance. You do things that you would not do when you are not using that substance. And that is not who you truly are. And so, of course, addiction gets that rap, right? Because I mean, even, I police officers are a good example because what happens is they are always dealing with the person that is in the worst part of their addiction, right? They're arresting them. They're seeing them commit crimes. They're crashing cars. They're doing bad things. So police officers' view of addiction is horrible, right? I mean, they don't see people recover. They don't see people that are getting well. They see people at their worst. And when a police officer, and yes, police officers have addictions, when a police officer needs to get treatment, it's really hard for that person because of that stigma of, you know what, I just see all these horrible things or their families, and so I try to do my best wherever I'm at, whether I'm at work or wherever, to get rid of that because you don't know what's going on in someone's life. And if they are, doing bad things and they're doing things, that's not who they are. That's the addiction. That's this, and when you remove that, like what's cool with working in treatment is you meet somebody at their worst. They come into treatment and their lives are shattered, right? And for the next months, you get to see this beautiful person, that, and you hear all the horrible stories, and you're reminded by the stories of their family members and being like, you did that, but you don't get to know them like that. And I've never met, I mean, I've worked in treatment a long time, and I've treated a lot of people. And to this day, I can say I have never met a horrible person. I've met people that done horrible things, for real. But that person is not their addiction. That's just not.
That's right. Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you very much for that, Corey. That was wonderful. You're also a member of NADAC, which I wanted to ask you. Can you tell us about why you joined this organization and what you most like
Well,
about being a member?
yeah.
It's
So
pretty awesome.
the reason I'm part of it is I'm actually the representative. So I'm the president of our agency, our association here in Utah. And so I'm the rep for the national part. I was full fucking that. So I've been a part of it since once I got my license. So when I went to school, and I was telling you, earlier, and I became a counselor. And to do that, like, you take the test through them. That's kind of where everything kind of goes through. And so I've been involved on and off with them for that long, and then now currently I'm the president here in Utah, and yeah, they're great. I mean, it's an agency that, we do our local stuff here in Utah, where we're trying to, pass laws or advocate and do advocacy and represent. And, on a national level, that's what they're doing. And they've got some great people in there, I mean, they've got people that, I mean, I love treatment and I love working in it, but they've got some people in there that I'm like, we'll be on these meetings sometimes, and I'm like, man, I kind of stepped it up. These people they're in it, man. And they work their butts off, and they're doing stuff on the national level that is, I mean, most people don't even know, I mean, and I'm pretty involved, but some of the stuff I hear, I'm like, who was that? Wow. Like, I mean, and that's just that piece. I mean, the representation of it, I mean, the CEUs, the stuff that they do for everybody, it's a good place. I mean, they're doing good stuff over there.
Most definitely. So, if someone is listening to this podcast in Utah, how can someone join?
So I'm actually what we're called here is the Association of Utah Substance Abuse Providers. That's us. And they can go to that website and hop on. It's just that.org, and go on and, pay the dues. Anyone that actually takes the test for licensing for the substance abuse counselor, then they actually, they register, and then they're part of it. And then obviously just yearly it kind of renews. And so that's where most of our membership comes from. I mean, we do some outreach at different things, and the universities, and, out here in Utah, the University of Utah used to be the only place that had a substance abuse counselor like course, to become licensed. Over the years, that's expanded. I mean, we have them, I think, in every university there. And so, I mean, if you want to do that, it's, I mean, they have it, like I said, every university, you can jump in and do it. And it was hard when it was just the University of Utah. It was very slim to get in. But now it's everyone. So anyone that registers for the test, that usually where most of the memberships come from.
That's really nice to hear that there's not just one college now that's
Yeah.
the training and the qualifications. It just shows how the whole industry is just growing and accepting that there's a real need.
I was up at the University of Utah, and I went, and it was really neat, and it was fun, and it's cool now that there's so many options. I mean, University of Utah is honestly one of the smaller ones now that are doing it, because they can only have so many classes that you do, and now they've got all these other places that you can go and do it. Some people want to argue, well, that dilutes the license. No, there is so much out there that needs it. I mean, the more the merrier. I mean, I want as many people as we can to get into this field, because we need it. I mean, I'm a director, And so I'm overhired and doing things right. And right now we're staffed well, but for the past 3 years, I've been understaffed and I've been trying to find people. And we just have a shortage of people in our mental health, that are in the profession. Plenty of people that are pursuing it, but we've kind of had this gap. And COVID really affected that because a lot of people drew back and started private practices and went on telehealth and kind of drew back from that. And now it's kind of coming back too, but we need more people in the mental health field. And not just, the substance abuse counselor is the very important part because we have our mental health counselors, we have peer supports, we have all these different things, and the substance abuse counselor is hybrid of all of them. And a lot of people that are in to become counselors are also in recovery themselves. And that rapport and that experience is needed. I don't think you need to be in recovery to be a counselor or be a therapist, but I believe that some people need that. That like they feel very comfortable when they know that this person has been through it. Is it a requirement? No, but I think that we have to have that in this profession. It's needed.
Yeah. Yeah. Most definitely, most definitely. One of the last questions I'm going to ask you, Corey, is I ask all my guests this because I get such a wide range of interesting answers. But can you tell me your opinion of harm reduction and how it can play such a big role?
Well, when I first got into this field, when I was taught about harm reduction, my attitude was, "What in the world? Why would I?" And my first experience was with like a needle exchange when I learned about this. And I was like, dumb idea. Like you're giving people a needle? Like I was like, this is absurd, but now you ask me, and I have a completely different attitude on it. And it's because it's why it's there. I mean, we're trying to keep people alive. We're trying to stay in their lives and hopefully, they can get some help or they can continue to work or whatever it is, I mean, whether it be needle exchange, whether it be, I mean, different medications. I mean, even, using LETs or giving people places to use. I know it can be a hot topic and it can be, for some people kind of pushy. I believe if there is any way that we can preserve life, we do it. And that might be something that morally for you, like I think a lot of people that struggle with it are also in recovery themselves and follow the abstinence model. And at least in our field, because they are so, I'm not going to use anything. I'm not going to drink caffeine. I won't do this. I won't do that, which works for them. I get that, that has helped them, but it doesn't work for everybody, and it's funny how I kind of look back even on my career, how my views of things have changed, whether it be needle exchanges or even Suboxone or methadone or different things that, I mean, I used to have a real kind of hard time with Suboxone, and buprenorphine, thinking that, hey, we're just giving these guys something else to use and it's a crutch and this and that. And for some people, yeah, it is. But for some people, it gives them their life back. And if that's what needs to be done, then that's what we're going to do, And so I believe in it. I think it's something that you don't have to always agree with everything, I mean, this is something I teach here when I was telling you about unconditional love. You don't have to always agree with what your loved one's doing. They might be using drugs. They might be doing things that are totally against your values, but that doesn't mean you can't love. And you don't have to agree with what they're doing. I mean, even our whole world right now, I mean, we just went through an election and we've got views on both sides, right? And it's It's become this, my team's better than your team, whatever team you're on, right? And okay, whatever. But just because I don't agree with this or I do agree with that, we still need to be cordial and I can still love you and care for you. But just because, I mean, I love the Miami Dolphins. I'm a Miami Dolphins fan. They suck. They're horrible. And some people just think they're the worst team ever. But I can still like you if you hate the Miami Dolphins. That's just the way that it is.
There we go. There we go. That's perfectly put. That really is. I love it. I love it. It's fantastic. Do you have a message for anyone listening to this podcast who is going through an addiction, Corey?
Yeah, I always like to. I'm not in my office. I'm at our outpatient building in my office down here, but my office is actually at our residential facility, and I have a big painting thing on my wall that says to never lose hope. And that's kind of my kind of mantra for everything, is to not lose hope, whether you're the person going through it or you're the loved one watching someone go through it. You can't lose hope. If you don't have hope, then why? I mean, why keep going? You gotta have some hope. And some people kind of get upset with me because we'll allow someone that's relapsed maybe 3 or 4 times, that come back to our treatment center. And some people are like, but you shouldn't do that. Like, you know what? Why? I mean, you can't lose hope. I know a guy that is a career owner of a treatment center, went to treatment over 20 times and in and out of jail, had a horrible life, right? And finally got it. And just this guy of my life, I mean, he's a wonderful person. And if his family lost hope, and I'll tell you, they were there. I mean, it wasn't like everything was easy, but he can't lose hope. And so, yeah, I think that anyone that's either going through it or has a loved one going through it, always hope. There's always hope.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Last question. Can you tell our listeners how to best contact you?
Yeah. So our website is just wasatchrecovery.com. And that gets to our landing page of everything. You can see all of our services and all of my staff's beautiful faces. And then our phone number that reaches those 2 individuals I was telling you about earlier. And honestly, they answer the phone. That is like their thing. I mean, you could call them right this moment and one of them will answer the phone. And that number is 801-901-0024. And that number is, I mean, and it's everywhere, and we've even had times where people want our, different marketing consultants are like, hey, we want to do this and we'll have a different number and they'll pipe through this. And I'm like, no, that number is our number. It's been the number since day one. People know that when they go to jail, they have that request. People when they're homeless, I mean, we've had people that even joke about it where they've saved it in their phone for their friends, and that is it. And it doesn't go through a call tree. It doesn't go through anything. It literally rings to 2 phone numbers. And it's to either Christian or Ducker, and those guys answer it, and they're on something one needs help, or they're even kind of looking for help, because sometimes it takes a while for someone to get there, and they just need to kind of figure some things out. Give them a call. And people, if they want to contact me, feel free to shoot me an email. My email is Corey, Corey, at wasatchrecovery.com. I'm happy to, I tend to get in trouble a lot because I'm always volunteering for things and doing things, and my time gets taken. But I'm from saying no when it comes to helping out with treatment and different things. So if there's things that people need help with or they're wanting, just hit me up. I'm happy to help.
Oh, well, Corey, I've got to say it's been a real privilege and an honor to speak to you today and to find out about your amazing career and the wonderful service that you provide in your state. And I can't thank you enough for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. It's It's been an honor. I actually, when we spoke earlier, a week or so ago, and you told me what you're doing, I love people like you. Actually, I got off our phone call from before, and I told Ryan, our admissions guy, I was like, I just got off the coolest phone call with this guy that is just in the middle of the United States, just making a difference, man, from his little spot. And so thank you for what you're doing.
No, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Talk to you
Much
soon. Thank you.
appreciated. Take care.